coming in. So we can get started. So basically, I wanted to just start out by everyone like introducing themselves for the most part. I know we all know each other in here, but for later on when people watch this and look back, they may not know. So I'll kind of kick it off, and then we can just kind of go after that. So my name's Keegan. I'm the creator of SPARC+. It's on-demand tech service. And I wanted to do this voting campaign to help our generation especially kind of make the process like easier. I feel like it's, for people don't really know a lot about it, and they don't even know where to start. So that's why I made like the infographics and things like that. But also I wanted to bring everyone together and basically share their viewpoints on voting, why it's important. And all of us being from Jacksonville, I think, it's pretty cool to bring everyone together and have this conversation, even though like we're all in different locations for the most part now. So that's pretty much it on my end, and whoever wants to go next.
I'll go. I'll take care of that. We're just doing introductions.
Yeah. Mayor Malk.
So, hey, anyway, how y'all doing, world? It's Malcolm Jackson, better known as Mount Jax, artist and photographer, business owner here in Jacksonville, Florida. Been working with Keegan and SPARC since the inception almost. So I'm glad to be on this panel and try to learn some things that I may not know about and try to help out others through this process.
Yeah, just real quick, Malk, he makes all the merch, so I send him screenshots, and he finds ways to bring it to life. So yeah.
My name is Corey Salter from Jacksonville, co-founder of Hydronomy. I'm also currently working in Democratic politics as a political fundraiser.
I guess I'll go next. I am Brianna. I am also from Jacksonville. I live in the DMV area right now, and I am a nurse here. So yeah.
So my name is Avery. I just moved to Los Angeles from DC. I know everybody from Jacksonville. I work in IT. And yeah,
I'm Tiffany.
Regular guy.
I'm Tiffany. I'm from Jacksonville too, and I live in Los Angeles as well right now. And I have a health and science background.
I'm Marcus Bowen. I'm an author from Jax, between Jax and Miami. I'm studying to become a doctor.
We're going to go Brandon Nightingale. Currently live in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. And I am the archival coordinator at Bethune-Cookman University, historically Black college, and also teach history at the university. And I've been supporting Keegan since the beginning, so.
Yes, sir.
Day one. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Caleb.
Oh man, we lost him.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, just go on, bro.
Yeah. We'll let him say his piece when he comes back in. So basically I'm just gonna throw out like talking points to kind of guide the conversation. But everyone feel free to, take it whichever route that you want to go. If there's something that you feel like is missing that wasn't spoke on, definitely feel free to chime in. Okay, Caitlin's back, so let's feed the bill real quick.
Yo, what's happening? How y'all doing, everybody? This is Caitlin Anderson of Feed the Bill. I'm also trying to just chime in on my point, as well as being a black man in America going on with events that we can change. So I'm ready when everybody is ready to continue.
Okay. So the first point that I wanted to bring up was if everyone could just give their insight on like what voting means to them, to you individually, and then you can also add on, why it's important and things of that nature. And we can kind of lead into why it's important specifically for this generation to be proactive on voting. Is there anyone that wants to kick that off for us?
I'll lead it. I would say for me, a big part of voting is I've kind of been in some situations where I've been in the system where it kind of doesn't let you have a voice just because of a situation that maybe you didn't do at all. My situation, I didn't commit. I was falsely accused, but it kind of doesn't really matter because it's way more than me that it affects. But being able to vote helps you change not just, like I said, your life, but change millions of people that are just like you. Even I looked on Facebook the other day, my grandparents, like they were posting that they had just voted with masks and everything. Like they are considered the range that are most likely to be infected by the virus, but they were out making their voice being heard. So just those two main points in my life, it feels that that voting and being aware, at least being aware, and can help make a change. So I would say just those main quick points, but it's a lot more. But for me, those are the main ones.
I'll say my piece here, and I think mostly what it means to me is, and that's partially why I use the fingerprint in the logo too, is it's our way of leaving our imprint standing in for what we believe in. I know in these past couple elections there were some strong amendments, with medical marijuana and solar energy that were important to me. So I wanted to make sure that I left my print in the say in that. Also for our generation, I think it's important because I don't think we understand the power that we really have. A lot of the time we, look up at the gatekeepers, so to speak, and that kind of is the journey that we take to get there, where we think that, at that point is when we can finally have an influence. But one of the infographics that I made for this is to show that, the age group of 18 to 40 actually makes up 43% of the voters here in Florida alone. So, that's to me is why it's most important.
Yeah, I would say for me, voting is, just exercising, your right. We have a hand in choosing, the next leaders for however many years. And definitely for this generation, between 18 and 30, we are the ones that are making up, the primary economy. So we should, really use our voices to really affect the change that we want to see, the policy and the laws that are, currently in place.
I'll chime in. For me, it's the history of voting, especially when you talk about for Black people in America. I work at Bethune-Cookman University in Daytona, which was founded by Mary McLeod Bethune. Okay, she is a well-known figure, and working at the school and university, I get the chance to go through her papers and see a lot of stuff that she was talking about. She was constantly trying to get people to vote. She never really said who to vote sometimes, but it was always, get to the polls, get you and your people to the polls. And this is also a woman who, and people got to understand, like I said, the history of this stuff, because just 100 years ago, women could not even vote, in America. And we have to keep that in mind. And so I tend to look back, at what were they doing back then, to stop us from voting. I know, all around the Central Florida area, all these riots and massacres happened because Black people were going to the polls. So clearly they were doing something right. And so I think we have to look back and then sort of connect it to the present.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what Brandon said, as far as the history, people fought for this right, they fought for this right for a reason. It's a very important thing. We have this obligation, and for us and it's for everybody else that is like us. You know, there's always somebody out there that's like you, can relate to you. Like, you're not just doing it for yourself. And then as like Keegan and Corey said too, it's just our age group. Like, we make up a huge majority of the population, and we're the ones who are really going to have to live with this stuff. Like, we are, you know, starting businesses and we're working, we're really getting out there and really trying to, you know, develop our life. We're young adults right now. So when we make these decisions and we're voting these people in, we then have to deal with the repercussions that come with making those decisions. So, I mean, it's the smart thing to do, honestly. Like, it's the smart thing to do, it's the right thing to do, it's the logical thing to do, is to like get out there and have a say in these things, because these people that we choose are going to affect our lives in the next few years and the years after that. So
Yeah, I
say
think.
voting.
there you
Go ahead, Avery. My bad.
Oh, you got it. You got it.
So voting is very key, especially at the local and then state. And then, you know, as you get higher, we have to spread awareness. It's more than just the presidential election. It's voting in, you know, judges and mayors and the Senate and, you know, House of Representatives. And it's our jobs to, as we are leaders of our respective communities, to lead by example and you know, we all have some type of pull or influence, you know, and we don't have to tell them who to vote for, but at least give them the information so they can make it logical, and let them know like these are the important things in life, because a lot of laws that are set up are laws that go against, you know, people of color, and, you know, and they prey on the less uninformed, and we got to put this information out there to let them know so they can know how to work and move within the areas and get out to these, you know, these elections that aren't publicized, like the presidential elections. Because, you know, when you start off in basketball, you don't start by shooting threes, you start by getting close to the hoop. And these local elections are like being closer to the hoop. And then we get the right people that wants to back our opinions, and then we keep working our way and chipping at it. So that's what voting means to me.
Yeah, and then we're voting effectively, like, for ourselves, and even like the people that can't vote, whether they're in the system or like the younger people, because like, I mean, if you're 18 and younger, you can't vote. So if we all have families or we got younger nieces and nephews and stuff, we should be trying to look out for them too. And also, like, there's really no excuse, because back then, and it's like, or whenever everybody started to vote, like everybody has cars, there's able like transportation to get to where you need to get to. So, I mean, you shouldn't let like your friends or family members say, oh, there's no point in like voting, or like it's stupid or something. There's really no excuse.
Yeah, I think Marcus made a good point about you know, getting involved on the local level. I know like on the Florida ballot this year, there's a lot of like amendments. There's a lot of, you know, judges on the ballot. I think it's important to like research all that stuff, because the language can be very confusing as well. And it's important to also like, you know, research judges. Like, you can't see, you know, where their party affiliation lies, but you can kind of see what cases they weighed in on, and if it serves your interest, that's where you should, you know, either say yes or no for those judges to continue to serve, you know, in these courts. So it's very important that like we, you know, you research what's on the ballot. It's not just like the presidential, it's the House of Representative, it's your, you know, your local town council people and stuff like that. Like, it's just super important that we just focus on, you know, more than just the presidential.
Yeah, because Florida was actually trying to make it to where we pay state taxes. So, and that was recent. That was a year and a half ago. So, and a lot of people don't even know about that. I didn't know about that until, you know, I stumbled across it. But that's major. Like, a lot of people like to live in Florida because they don't have to pay, you know, state taxes. But
minimum wage is on the Florida ballot this year too.
Yeah, and I think you know, the age we live in now, man, the information is so, you know, readily available to us. Like Corey and Marcus are saying, you know, this is something I did for the first time this year. Was, you know, I researched everybody, you know, that I saw, every name that I saw, you know, and I was able to do the mail-in ballot, so I had time, And I looked up everybody, especially here in New Smyrna. I think the population is like 90% white and 10% black. So I went and looked, and some of these candidates, I was able to go on some of their social medias and see what their views were like. Such and such was at a Trump rally. Okay, such and such is trying to build a Trump statue in New Smyrna. This is all the things that I came across, and so I made sure, I made sure my views align with my votes.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with what everybody's saying. I believe it's our right that our parents and our grandparents and our ancestors have been fighting for us to be able to have moments like this where we're teaching one another about the voting process and why it's so important for us to put this stuff down, because it does directly affect us, especially on the local election side. But it's our right, and teaching other people that, hey, this is our right to do this. We live in this country. We have a say in how this country should be ran as well. So using that and using it with power, and understanding that we're not too far from a generation where you wasn't allowed to vote. And the fact that they planted those seeds back then, and we're now being able to reap those benefits and continue to pass that on. So ever since I was first able to vote, I voted every single time I could, local, state, national. As soon as I got the card, I was banging on the post door, hey, when y'all open?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how serious I really, really took it. Just knowing, there was so much of these things that they put in the language that we don't know about or don't understand, and it just doesn't work for us anyway. So just using the gifts that was given to us and pushing them forward and teaching the next generation how important this is.
I also think it's important because it allows us to voice our opinions, and the demographics that we're part of, it's very, we have a different perspective than those that are in the majority and those that are like the older people who are voting. We can definitely change our society with our voices, for sure. And I think I was reading that in 2016, less than half of the voters were millennials and Gen Z. So we can definitely make a huge change. Yeah.
So the next thing I wanted to kind of touch on is, I feel like what would help moving forward is if the voting process itself was like streamlined a little bit and a little more easier and accessible. I remember like specifically one time when I was at UCF, I was actually living with Corey and Tiffany, you were going there too. I thought like, I was living in UCF, but I was registered in Duval. So I had to drive back to Jacksonville just to go vote. And I'm like, why don't they have a poll at every college campus? Like, if this is the strength in the numbers, why not make it easier? And then also with that, like NASA just had an astronaut vote from space using like a digital secure line from a computer that they had up there. And it's like, how can you make that happen? But so if anyone had anything to touch on that, yeah, that would be like the next topic, is just, how could we simplify it, or what are ways to make it easier?
I think actually me and my dad were talking about this. So in the military, you get like one of these cards, right? You got like a picture on it and they got like a chip, right? So but everybody gets like a social security number at like when you're born, or you should, you're from here, you establish citizenship here, you get one, right? So, obviously they make it hard for people because they want to try to keep the status quo. But if they were to make it easier, why not everybody? It's like as soon as you turn 18, they check a system, or you have like this kind of card. It's not gonna like track your like location or anything like that, but like you're able to like it's tied to your social, and you can be able to vote when you're 18.
Like just automated, like, as soon as you turn 18, you're allowed to vote. It doesn't have to be a whole process of like,
yeah.
I think a lot of us, I remember me, like I got registered to vote in high school.
Yep, same.
Yeah.
And it's like something where it's just like, turn 18, just how in that moment you're, able to be charged as an adult in a court, you should be able to vote because you're 18.
Because it's not like a driver's license where you have to display like a certain skill
set. Yeah.
And obviously like a whole bunch of dumb people vote, so like you should be able to just you should be able to just like they could definitely make it easier somehow.
I feel like it's, I don't know, maybe this is me being crazy, but I feel like it could definitely be easier, but it's not easier for a reason.
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
like, I mean, well, one, like, we didn't even have the option for the longest.
Right.
And, like, there's definitely a reason why it hasn't been made easier. And I don't know what it's going to take to make it easier. But at the end of the day, it definitely could be done. But it's not being done because they're trying to stop,
No, it's kind of designed that way. I mean, me and Ace, we was kind of on a chat a few weeks ago, and we was looking at the electoral college and how that actually works, and reading the history of that. And the history of that is downright scary. I mean, like 3/5 of a human, for Black people, and then regardless what happens in the popular election, in the popular vote, the electoral college is what really decides everything. So you can holler about, we holler telling everybody to go to the polls and they'll win by a huge margin, but it's still about the electoral college, and each state gets its own, sound amount of delegates and stuff like that. So it was from the beginning of America, it was already rigged. So they try to find these ways, so we just have to continue to find loopholes that make sense for all of us to be able to beat the system.
My thing is the education behind it. It's so important, man, because something that I look to probably do or get involved with, is the education side, and specifically, like I just mentioned, going through the ballot. There should be some kind of somebody that provides a service that can like literally take you through each ballot, for where you live, and sort of explain it, because it took me a legit hour to go through. Actually, that's time I had to take, out of my day to actually sit down. Okay, who was this judge? Okay, I didn't know this person was. Oh wow, he fought in the military. That's why he's this way. Whatever. So I think that's so important, and we got to find a way to get the information out. Because I have students that I teach, so as soon as I got that information, I quickly say, hey, did y'all know that this judge was this, or did you know that this person was that? And so I think the education is going to be key. And how do we know the history of it, but what are the ways that they're stopping us today? And we got to understand that.
And I was going to say, like, just imagine. I feel like, the information is like readily available if you go seek it, but just imagine, like, you just pull, like, most people, I feel like when they were just pulling up to the poll and then just looking at names. They would see some people on TV, but
you had good marketing and you in the game.
The most money market, but there should be like a unbiased I know that's hard, but unbiased like repository information, or like the first time you should be seeing somebody's name is it like when you come up to the poll. Right. Even when I was looking at that ballot, I'm like, what is this? What is this soil conservation thing?
And another thing too about looking at those ballots is kind of so much filler, to a degree on some of those things. They throw so much information at you that some people can't comprehend that as quick when they're right there trying to vote. So you're trying to do this and you're reading a book, every single ballot question, and then trying to think of an answer right then and there. So just like what Gail was saying, teaching how to read a ballot and how to properly get the information so that you're not taking in so much that you don't understand. It's more a condensed, straightforward ways like, okay, this is why this is important for these reasons, or this is why I don't agree with this question for these reasons. But they put so much of that stuff in there.
And back to like what Brandon, sorry, you can go.
Go ahead, Brandon.
No, I was just gonna say, like, back to what you were saying, Brandon, about how you spent all that time to go back and look up everybody and see what they were about. And like you did that because you know how important it is to vote. And so at the end of the day, while we are given all of this information and given this runaround, you know, to voting until we get a way to like streamline everything, I think it's really important to, you know, really emphasize why it's so important to vote, because you did that. You did all that research because you knew how important your vote mattered. And I think that is where the disconnect is with some other people, is they see all the information, they're like, this ain't really that important. Like, I'm not about to go and look this stuff up. Like, I'm about to just check this, this, and this and be done. But like, you knew how important this was. So you did the research. So putting emphasis on how important this is for other people and for other people to realize that and see, I think is going to be really, really key to getting people to want to go and do that research as well, to be able to make an educated decision on the ballot at the end of the day. People need to see and understand how important their vote is.
Right, and I think the process of it in general is sort of so private, you know, in terms of even if they did something as simple as putting a name to the face, you know, or listing, you know, what these people look like, you know, because these people are in the community, you know, we live in these communities, we may run into these people or see these people in places and we don't even know, you know, that's them. So that's the main thing for me, and that's how I think we have to, you know, it's 2020. There should be some sort of way to at least put a name, okay, near the ballot, you know, near the person's name on the ballot or something. You know, it's time to sort of update these ideas, because I guarantee people would sort of vote off of, okay, a person of color is running for this position. You know, I may put my vote here, you know, instead of just seeing that specific name on the list. It's different things like that. We have to update the time.
And Brandon,
go ahead.
And Brandon, to piggyback off you, he's like, why don't we be the ones who set up a panel and, you know, figure out an app or, you know, a program to where we create something so we can make it easily accessible. And these are how all these ideas are created, by having discussions like this. And Bree, to piggyback off you, to be able to make it easier is you're gonna need an absurd amount of money. So that's why we continue to stay in our lanes and build our network, and we come together when it's time to, you know, become a lobbyist and be able to implement and get laws changed, because that's how a lot of laws are brought about, is lobbyists paying, you know, politicians and all this stuff, and then they send it up the route and everything. And if you look at some of these like small counties and even bigger counties, they have this infrastructure set up to where when they get elected, they win, like, and then they have an underling where like someone is like, it's almost like nepotism, where they have the associate of the family, and then it's their turn to take over, and it keeps trickling in, because, you know, they know not many people know to go out, and because they don't, you know, put it out there, and then it continues, and this is how we get to 2020. So we just got to continue to bring awareness and continue to do these things like this. So
yeah, I mean,
I will say, go ahead, Corey.
Oh no, I think like the answer lies like in rooms like this, the younger generation, talking about how do we make things easier, and it ties directly back to the people that you put in office. I think it all ties, how do we make voting easier is, you know, we elect leaders who want to make voting
right.
Yeah.
Not like, you know, it's kind of ironic to say, but it's true, because, you know, we elect more people who have our interests in mind. They're going to reach back into us and say, you know, I see you, I know you had these ideas, bring it to me, and how can we, you know, think about this and make it actually a real thing. So yeah, how do we make voting easier? It's not one answer. It's not like a silver bullet that's going to happen, especially in this election, but I think it ties all the way back to like people that we choose to put in power.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add a little something to it too, was also as far as the research side, depending on what state you is, who is actually eligible to vote. And that's been another big part, especially in the presidential election, with a lot of people who are just getting out of prison or who've been out of prison a few years. And they was taught that when you go to prison or whatever, you never can vote. And little did they know you can some states you can walk right out prison system and go vote that day. And that's another way to suppress voters as well. Just kind of adding on to that research aspect we was talking about, because that's another key point as well. That keeps a lot of people away. Because we have a lot of people. I have a lot of my family, kind of was ex-felons who was told that they couldn't vote, or they had to wait, 5 years or whatever. And now most of those cats that I know or that I've kind of been around, they're going to vote for the first time because they finally realized that they could have voted the whole time.
Yeah, it's like America makes up 25% of the world's imprisonment population. So you can only see you can only imagine how many people that keeps back. Kaylin, did you want to add your part?
Yeah, I was going to piggyback on Malk. This is like the knowledge of being able to vote, because some people, you commit crimes and you don't even, they tell you that you're not able to, but the crime that you committed is not even worthy of that. So the knowledge is always important. I would say, like, for future generations, we got to want to do a lot more stuff instead of want to be cool, want to do this. We got to want to make a change. We got to want to, I guess we have to make voting cool. Like, everybody is always trying to make this or that. It's like social media. I've never seen social media push voting more than it has. So I will say that with social media aspect and the internet, that each tab every time you open Instagram, you see something about voting. Every time you open your phone, it's somebody telling you about a damn ballot. So I will say that to not know is on your own. But I will say that if we can make voting cooler, or if other people can push the vote all year, that will make us a lot better. Because I will say myself that some of the things on the ballot were some things that I didn't know of, and we have to prepare ourselves before we go, instead of going and just trying to make conscious decisions. So, and that's just coming from my own perspective and my interactions when I voted. So
I really appreciate social media, because there's so much power to it. You can learn so much from social media, and I know there's a bunch of different organizations and affiliations that make voter guides for people. Mm-hmm. So when I was voting, I used 4 different voter guides, and it really helped me out. It took me 2 hours.
All right, so what was that?
I said the information is out there.
Yeah.
You gotta want to do it.
I think that's a good point. We gotta make voting cool. We gotta make it
up. So I actually thought of this when Malk was talking. I know this is kind of a question that I saw personally a lot this year, and I wanted to see if Corey could, real quick, just break it down for us. But like the Electoral College. So I know that's something that a lot of people don't fully understand, like what the purpose of it is or how it's put together. I know, and people ask all the time, what is it and why is it important? So if you could just answer that for them real quick. Yeah.
I'm not gonna feel like I know the whole answer. The Electoral College is a very historic thing, and it works in ways that even I don't fully understand. Maybe Malk and Avery, who have more knowledge on it, recent research, may be able to explain it.
Oh, thank you. You got it.
I could chime in a little bit. So the way the Electoral College is set up is you have your states, your 50 states, and however much population you have in the state, that's how many. So each state gets 2 U.S. senates, right? So that's 100 senators. But then you get a certain amount of House of Representatives. But the House of Representatives is based off the population of that state. So the Electoral College was implemented during slavery because the South had more slaves than the North. So therefore, the South would have essentially won every presidential election because they outnumbered the North. So therefore, the 3/5 came into act. So therefore, the South couldn't outnumber the Electoral College. So right now in 2020, the most populated states are Texas, California, Florida, and New York. And those states are very key. Like California and Florida, like very key in the elections because they have like the most electoral college votes. So you have your popular vote, and then say Florida, the Democrats won the popular vote, but it's still up to those senators and those House of Representatives. They meet in December and they decide if they want to vote for the Democratic Party for president or the Republican. So you can win the popular vote, but at the end of the day, it's that we put into the House and to the Senate that makes the final choice.
Yeah,
So
and I think
it makes it even more important.
Yeah, and I think you do the popular vote first, and then like you said, in December, after the popular vote is cast, then the electoral, the college meets and takes care of that. So after we've already done our part, the ball is out of our hands, and we have to depend on a whole nother system to officially elect the president. So again, that just kind of shows how the system has been rigged, kind of.
I was gonna say too, like the electors, they're actually their information, like you can find it, like it's not a private.
Oh yeah.
So like it would be in their best interest to vote in wherever that state is, because you don't want people showing up at your door. But
that's you make a good point, Avery, and that was what I was saying earlier. It seems like it's private, that nobody really knows that. And so that's what we have to do is sort of, get that out there. You hit it right on the money. It's people think that that's private information, but it's not.
And I think that's kind of what we saw in 2016. Like the Electoral College is supposed to vote in favor, of the popular vote. But that's not.
Yeah, supposed to.
And they're supposed to vote, in the interest of the popular vote. But obviously that's not, how the Electoral College decides to work.
All right. Did anyone else have anything to add to that? No.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was gonna say, I think in theory it's a good idea, because I don't think every state should have this. That would just be kind of, if every state had like the same amount.
Equal, yeah.
Yeah, because there's just way more people in California or in Florida and stuff like that. But just like knowing that how this like the system works, and that's why it's so important for us to like tell our peers too, because Florida probably, we could have turned Florida if a certain amount of people voted a certain way. So and there's a I'll send Keegan the link, but there's a podcast. It's like a stuff you should know. They do like they like deep dive into like certain subjects, and it's really short. Like you can listen to it and they'll tell you how it works.
Yeah, I think it's to kind of like wrap it up, it's just, I think it's another one of those pieces with even like the voters process that it just, obviously it's outdated, and we live in a time that's way more forward than the time that they created it. So it definitely needs like a refresh. The last thing, and like I didn't want this to run past an hour. I know everyone's busy, and I appreciate everyone for joining in. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was, what does like a stronger America look like for you guys in the future? I know a lot of us have traveled and, all over the world has seen different things. Malcolm, I know specifically, like, when you and I went to Japan, we were amazed, and Avery as well, with just like how smooth everything worked. Like it's like a well-oiled machine that I keep telling everyone it's like, a live action iOS, like on your iPhone. Like, but it's seriously though, it's like you can tell why, companies like Apple, and they spend so much time like researching how things work there. And maybe if you want to kick it off, but yeah, that's kind of the last topic I wanted to touch on, is what does a stronger America look like for you guys?
That's it. I kind of, when you first sent the questions, I was kind of the one I've been thinking about, because I don't even think I even have a full answer tonight. But one, I think being able to listen to one another, and at least hearing everybody's opinion. That's one thing that this country hasn't been too good at, is we listen to one opinion and, you know, they try to leave it as that. But we live in obviously the most diverse country in the world. And everybody has their own opinions of how things should be ran, and stuff that we should listen to, because it may be some things we may need to look at. So at least just being able to listen to one another is the only thing I really got right now. And as we hear from everybody else, I may think of another perspective, but especially in the American that we've grown up into now. You know, when we were kids, we was always taught that, you know, y'all gonna run this country one day, and now we're here, but we got left with such a mess that we didn't have no control over, and we're trying to pick up these pieces. And I mean, we had good teachers, but for the most part, this is stuff that we've kind of all learned ourselves, and that we're passing along within our generation. So we're kind of one of those generations that's fully enlightened into what's going on, and how to make sure we make this country work better for us and for future generations.
Yeah, for me, it's like America's like, overall, it's just selfish, like with the capitalism and, you know, everybody, you know, trying to get theirs. And you see it like the past few months of COVID. Like there's a lot of countries that all they did was put on their masks for one another, and now they're in a way better state than what we're in. But it's kind of hard to break the mold, because, like, I mean, I see a lot of minorities in here, but it's like, you know, we're always kind of told to, like, you know, get ours, because we don't know where else is gonna come from. But like, I think being less selfish, like when you go to the polls, I mean, there's decisions that you can help support that will could make it easier for you, but there could also be like decisions that make it easier for, or better for, like a majority of people. And then listen, like what Malk said, listening to the other side. I mean, I know some people are just so like extreme, and even you see it on Twitter, like I've never seen an argument like resolved on Twitter, because people just keep like opinions as facts, but that's not always the case. But yeah, that's where I'll leave it at.
I would say for me, I would say a better America looks, or a better world, if we just look past just the exterior of somebody. Like if you get to know somebody, if we listen, like you said earlier, we listen to one another and just let each other talk, instead of assuming what words are going to come out of somebody's mouth, or assuming what this place has to offer, or what that person has to offer. Because I feel like that's where a lot of miscommunication happens, because I can look at a lot of people in a certain place and assume that, all right, well, oh no, what happened? They can still see me?
Yeah, you good.
You good.
But then, like, you can look around and just assume that this place isn't going to offer or stand up to what you think, just because of somebody else's opinion. I think we got to find our own opinions instead of just listening to somebody else's. Of course, information from people is very important, but also we must put that together with our own information. Just because this person didn't like this, it may be a reason why they didn't like it. If you try somebody else's and it may be the exact same thing, it may be two different experiences. So I feel that if Americans, or if all of us, stopped labeling before we even knew, that it makes everything a little better. Like, it's fine to be weary of a situation. That's completely fine. But to assume that this person is this, and you don't know a single thing from where they look, it may be a bad day. A bad day happens to a lot more people than everyone knows. But a lot of people wear their bad day a different way. So I feel like we gotta just look past the bad day and actually see people for their good day.
I think what I want to leave it with is leave everybody with is sort of that, for a better America, what I would like to see is just a sense of sort of understanding and truth. You know, it's so much sort of false information that's out there. You know, I could go on and on. You could go out and find whatever you seek. So if I want to find good facts on Trump. I can go out there and find good facts on Trump. You know, are those sources valid? That's a whole nother debate. So I really want people to sort of seek understanding in all of this, because at the end of the day, voting is such a small part of the process. And we have to sort of, nobody really talks about it, but it's sort of, for me is vote and then what? Okay, I think we get so caught up in the vote that we, you know, what's next? Because no matter who wins the election, I still am going to be doing what I'm doing. And everybody else should still, you know, continue to fight. My life was never dependent upon who sits in that office. And so keep that mindset and just seek understanding for yourself. You know, don't worry about what everybody else is talking about. You know, because what I vote for could not be what you vote for, and that's okay. But seek that understanding for yourself.
And for me, it would a better America would consist of people that know how to empathize. Empathy. I feel 100% that empathy would get us far, because a lot of the problems that we are dealing with today and will continue to deal with and in the past have been from a lack of empathy and not understanding and not listening to one another. Just being able to, you know, put yourself in somebody else's shoes, even if it doesn't affect you, but being able to understand how it affects somebody else, and then being able to empathize with that person. And then literally just everybody trying to be a decent human being, which sounds so easy, but for whatever reason, it is not that easy for some people. And if everybody were to try to be a decent human being, we would be a lot better off. So that is what a stronger America looks like for me, at least. And that is what I hope for one day.
I think that stronger America would be having the opportunity for everyone to have basic human rights. Like, a lot of the happiest countries are socialist countries, and it doesn't make sense that we pay like so much for healthcare. Like, that's crazy to me. When like I was watching a TikTok, and it was this girl talking about like, oh, I can't believe like she's like, I can't fathom the thought of going into a doctor's office and not having to pay a bill. And then someone commented, who was like obviously from the UK, and they were like, well, every time we go to the medical office or whatever, we go and Google how much it would have been in the US. And I think that's just ridiculous that's like a basic human right, you know? So I think that would be the best.
So you're saying I gotta move?
Yeah, it's like it's like a whole YouTube section of just about that type of stuff. It's crazy.
We should just find an island and make our own little world. I mean, what are we
At this point, yeah.
Might as well.
Anything work, anything better.
And then Killer might do that, like in Atlanta. He tried to make his own little country in the middle of Atlanta or something like that. That was
we could buy a town. Shoot.
Yeah.
I'm down. Who's gonna put the money down?
Actually, on that, like, it sucks that we have to say that, because like all the diversity and that we built this country too. So it's like,
did you answer?
Exactly.
You know, for me, like, I don't know, man. It's a lot that goes into like what strong America looks like. Just like a few things that probably come to mind are just like, I don't know, more diversity in our leaders and holding those leaders accountable for the things that we want. I would say like better access to like Tiffany said, like human rights, like healthcare. For a lot of people, for everyone, mostly healthcare is tied to like your employment, and that's ridiculous. Like, you shouldn't have to have a job just to be like taken care of. You have to have like ailment. I don't know, more like investment in like sustainable practices. Like, I know myself, Key, and others on this call are really into like solar energy and things like that. So we need to find out a way to like save our planet as well. And then like another thing is probably like, you know, confronting like the systemic racial institutions that this country has put in place. that have been designed to hold back people of color, specifically Black people. So I don't know. I don't have like one answer, but like that's some of the things that kind of come to mind.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one thing everybody sort of just talked about, Noki, you mentioned Japan and all this, the UK, Avery. It's important to have that world view of America. And that's sort of what I've been on. I think we're sort of constrained in sort of a box because this is where we live, and it is important. You need to know how the politics work here and stuff, but you need to know how it affects everybody else too.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, that's going to take research on your own. You're not gonna be given that.
I like to add to mine too. I would say a better America starts with our children too, because just knowing a lot of teachers who teach at the lesser schools, it's like the schools don't even matter. It's like they have to provide out of their pockets for the kids to enjoy the school or to help the kids. So it's like I would say for our youth to be touched the most, it's like they have to be treated equally as well. Like the school across the street or across the city can't be better than the same school that's 30 minutes away. Like I feel like it has to be quality throughout from top to bottom, because it's not fair to grow up to go to a place where you have to go. Like you have to go to school at the end of the day. To go to a place where you have to go and it's sometimes worse than your house. Like how can a person thrive or anything? So I would say to add to mine, the education of our children, because if they can't get it from the beginning, then now how is the world going to teach them to be anything better? So
yeah, to kind of add on to Kalen's, like when I was studying abroad in Paris at UNF, the school that we were that hosted us was a private school that was still half the cost of a public school that I was going to in UNF. And what's interesting over there is the EU, for example, it's more like transfer of like free energy, like people, ideas and things like that, to where if you're say you're born in Poland, you can go to any public school in the EU for free, not just in the country of Poland. So like just the idea of like within our own country, we have in-state tuition costs and out-of-state tuition costs, and it's like our nation's debt of college debt and student debt is just like could pay for so many other different things, but it's just money that they're just like locking up and making us pay to for periods of time that are just way too long. But
a better America / world for me, in my opinion, is at first it starts with education reform, and then giving everyone equal opportunities to reach and tap into their full potential. And we have examples of that. Like look at our human body. Like our human body has so many different organelles and organisms and organs that are work together to complete one mission, and that's to keep us alive. And when your human body's at its full potential, it works very good. And we all have different ethnicities, different cultures, different backgrounds, just like our body has different. And like if we can use that as a blueprint, we can do the same things as our body do. Like we tend to forget how powerful our bodies are, or how like cool our bodies are. We have to use that so we can create a better world. And that's basically what I wanted to say. So
did anyone have anything else to add on?
I'm just going to add the last little bit again, how important it is for the local elections or the local questions that would be on your ballots. And it kind of goes in what Kalen was talking about with the future of our kids in particular. Duval County, there's a question on there talking about a 0.5-cent tax with that money going directly to Duval County School Board to fund for schools. And understanding how important you may find that. So as important as the presidential election is this year, especially with everything that's going on, it's probably the most important one. Each one is the most important one, but this obviously is probably the most important one in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
the local elections and the local things that have been on your ballot are just as important, because that directly is going to affect you in your immediate future. Unless you making billions of dollars, which we gonna make it, we all gonna get there fairly soon.
Right.
but for sure. But that what happens nationally won't directly affect you ASAP, but whatever happens on that local ballot will probably affect you the very next day. So make sure that you, like we've kind of been reiterating, try to do your research best way you can. Like Tiffany was saying, there are voter guides on IG, TikTok. Social media has been an amazing tool this year for these voter guides, and people are simplifying same things. If there's like a local version that you can find for your community, for anybody nationwide, you find for your community, I would say definitely take a keen interest in that in particular, because that's directly going to affect you and whatever you want to speak on. You have the right to vote for whatever you want to vote for, but just know that whatever your actions are on that ballot, that's what, the cause
you
and
have to live
effect will be.
with. So
Yeah, sure.
well, that closes it up. That was an hour long. Thank you guys, everyone, again, for taking time out of your day. I know everyone's super busy, but this is something that was very important to me, and obviously with our startup, it was an important issue for us to address. And I think it was just, cool how we all were able to come together and speak on a common issue. And we all started here in Jacksonville, and we may not end here necessarily, but I think it's important for just the sake of our community and everything like that. So I'll definitely gonna edit this up, and can shoot everyone the video when it's uploaded to YouTube, and then also we're gonna get it onto a podcast, so people can go back and listen. And thank you everyone for your time, and we'll see you next time.